If you're tuning into this video, you're probably getting ready to write the first part of your career passport, which is the resume. Now, just a quick little reminder, I've said this in the informational packet if you got it and in the instructions, but the career passport is required for graduation at the Adams County, Ohio Valley School District. So it is very, very, very important that you do it. You literally cannot walk across our graduation stage without having done your career passport. So this video is going to be a combination of seeing my face, but also doing some voiceover. So I hopefully I can explain this to you pretty well, even though you're at home. Okay, so the first page in your packet should look something like this. Boop. Just says how to write your resume. And then you've got something like this, and it's basically saying what is a resume. And it says, simply put, a resume is a one-page document that sums up a job seeker's qualification for jobs that they're interested in. Sometimes you're going to come encounter with resumes that are more than one page. Sorry about my squeaky chair. Let me move that back. Sometimes you are going to come across resumes that are more than one page, but for us and for just getting out of high school, we're going to want to stick to the one page sort of requirement. If you go slightly over, I would suggest doing some different things with your spacing, and you can see those on the examples. It further says on this paper that a resume summarizes, so it's kind of like a big summary of you. It summarizes important information that an employee needs to know when they consider a new hire, you being the new hire. All right, the job seeker's relevant qualifications, training, and work history are listed and easily understood. So for you guys getting fresh out of high school, you want to include that. If you graduated with honors or a high GPA, you'll want to include that as well. If you did any type of the college credit classes, either on campus or at high school, you're going to want to include that as well, because that is a school that you attended, be it Southern State or whatever. And if you have any work experience, do that. Volunteer experience, whether it's with Beta Club or otherwise, do that. Church membership, extracurricular activities, all of that stuff is important. Now, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, oh, geez, I haven't had a job. Oh, geez, I didn't really do any extracurricular activities. I don't go to church, and I've never volunteered. That's okay. Skip it. Skip those sections. And then list the skills, which we will talk about in 1 second. Okay, so I am looking at the first resume example number 1. And at the top here, I have highlighted Nina Martin. She lives at 123 Teacher Road, West Union, Ohio, 45693. I've listed a fake phone number and a fake email address. Okay, this is where you put your information. Your name, your address, your phone number, and your email address. Remember, like I said in the video, only use an email address that you regularly check, and do not use your school email address, because that will eventually be eliminated. Okay? You can't rely on that forever. And be prepared to answer your phone, especially if you're applying for a job. I know I don't like answering phones either, but just remember, this might be a job of your dreams. In our next section, you can see objective and certifications. So your objective here is what you want to do. This can be general or specific, and that is why it's important that once you type a resume that you keep it forever. And that's the good thing about having a Google Drive. Now you might be saying, well, Ms. Puckett, you just said that my school email is going to eliminate here eventually, so how can I have my Google Drive? Well, that's why you either email your resume to yourself on an outside email, like a Yahoo mail or your personal Gmail, or you can share it to your Google Docs on a personal email. So for example, all of my teacher stuff, all of my files is actually shared on my personal Gmail as well. That way, if something would happen with the school computer would malfunction, or if I ever move districts, I have that. So your objective here on this first resume says to obtain a full-time position. If you're applying at McDonald's, say that.
to obtain a full-time position at McDonald's, or maybe you're applying for part-time. You can say that too. When I did my resume to apply here at West Union High School, I said to obtain a full-time position as a teacher in the Adams County, Ohio Valley School District. All right, the second thing is certification. This might be one of those categories that you have to skip. I have put STNA, or State Tested Nursing Assistant certification. This could be for our students who also go to the Ohio Valley CTC. Some of you might still be CPR certified. Put that on there. I know it might not sound relevant to your job at McDonald's or something like that, but every little bit helps. And if I'm sitting right in front of you and I'm the boss and I have to choose between someone who has the exact same resume as you, but one's certified in CPR and one isn't, I'm always going to pick the candidate that is more certification, whatever that might be. And if you look to the right there, it says 2009. That's when this person got their certifications. You need to put that on there as well. Keep in mind, if your certification is expired, do not put it on there. Education. If you look to the left here, I've got 2 schools listed. This might be relevant to some of you because some of you also attended the Ohio Valley CTC. Some of you also did dual credit through either Southern State Community College or Shawnee. Some of you went on campus to Shawnee, either junior year or senior year. Make sure that you list all of your schools that you attended in the 4 years of high school. So if you went to Peebles for junior high, or if you went to Manchester for elementary, don't list those. We don't really care about preschool all the way up to 8th grade. These are only the 4 high school years. On the left here, you see that we've got the titles of our schools. Under West Union High School, I've listed the year that they got their diploma. Again, if you are graduating with honors, please list that. Everything good to put on your resume counts. And for the CTC one, we've got the program certification. Now, if you find yourself being one of those dual credit students that only took a couple of classes, you can just put classes through college prep program or college credit plus program, something like that, because you don't really have a degree or anything like that, unless you did get an associate's, and good for you. Put that. I've got the years listed that this student attended both schools. The CTC was a couple years. West Union was 4 years. If you went to another high school, you can list that. But again, we're only listing schools from our 4 years of high school. And then to the right-hand side, we see that we put the whole address of our school. Something that you don't necessarily have to put is the phone number of the school. If you want to, go ahead. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you're looking for West Union High School's address, it's listed there, as is the CTC. If you're doing one of your own for Shawnee or something like that, you're going to have to look up that address on your own. And what you do is just go to that website. And a lot of times, if you just scroll all the way down, it will have the main campus address listed. You can use that. Otherwise, if you find in the navigation, you can look for something that says contact us, and that will usually list an address. Okay, so the next section that we have is volunteer experiences. And this is probably something that's really prevalent for a lot of you in a different reasons. Okay, some of you have done volunteer babysitting. Does that count? Yes, it does. Okay, now if you're babysitting your own sibling, probably not really. But if you're babysitting for neighbors or a distant cousin, someone that isn't in your direct family, you can go ahead and put it, because that shows that someone thinks that you're responsible enough to watch their kid. That's actually a pretty high honor that your neighbor or whoever would allow you to do that. Okay, in our example here, they've listed Beta Club, which is a great way to get volunteer experience. Also, if you're a part of the National Honor Society. And what this person done is they've listed West Union High School Beta Club, and then in the bullet points there, they've listed specifically what they did for the Beta Club. So if you're working the gates for the basketball games, you might say, collected money from customers at sporting events, make it sound nice, or sold concessions at extracurricular activities. Okay, if you've done the haunted hallway in the past 4 years of high school, any of that is fine. Help with the food drive, all of that. Now, if you're doing volunteer babysitting or something that's not affiliated with school, you do something very similar. Where it says West Union High School Beta, you might put volunteer babysitting. And then you can put specifically in the bullet points what you did for that volunteer babysitting. You know, what ages were the children? Did you cook food for them? Did you help them with their homework? Things like that. So if you're looking at your packet, you might see that there is a supplemental section here. And this is a skills section. And the reason why I call this supplemental is because several of you are going to have a full resume. Between your work experience, your volunteer experience, your extracurricular activities at school, and your awards, you're going to find yourself filling up a full page. So for several of you, this won't even be a category that you address. However, there will be some of you that have never worked, you've never volunteered, you don't do any extracurricular activities like sports, and you don't have any awards. And that's okay. We all live a different life. But if you find yourself having a very short resume, if it does not fill up a page, then you should add a skills category. And all the back pages of this packet, I've put a little transitional page in there to let you know where it's at, are skills. And there are very specific skills like welding and car mechanics, but there's also some general skills on there too, like teamwork and working well with others and things like that. So this might be a category that you want to add only if you find yourself having a very short looking resume that does not fill one page. This might be something that some of you have to skip, and it says extracurricular activities and awards. Those are two different sections. And the reason why they're spaced like that is because it's kind of what I said in that opener. If you find yourself running out of space on your resume, you can do some creative stuff with some spacing to fit there. So the extracurricular activities, it says Nina here, our student, she was on the softball team for 2 years. She cheered for 1 year. She was in the beta club for 2 years. She listed all that. Now, some of you might be saying, well, hey, Miss Puckett, I didn't do anything at school, but I am a volunteer firefighter. Can I list that? Oh, sure can. Okay, if you've volunteered with your church, if you have volunteered with any type of youth group, if you've volunteered with your AAU basketball team, whatever, okay, you can list that in your volunteer section. You can list that in your extracurricular section. If you teach Bible school on Sunday, put that in your extracurricular section. It all counts. And the awards, so this person got top performing English student, the Voice of Democracy essay contest winner, and perfect attendance. If you have never received any awards, don't worry about it. Just skip it. If you've received a lot of awards, you can just put various academic awards or various sport-related awards. All of that counts too. And then the very last section there, it says references available upon request. So basically what that means is not every job is going to ask you for references, which is fine. If you put that at the bottom, that makes them ask you. And the reason why they need to ask you is because that makes them a more active participant in the hiring process. That lets you know if they're thinking about you, because they're not going to ask for references if they're not at least thinking about you. That way you know if you're moving on to the next step. If they do ask you for your references, you should have 3 references available. They should be non-direct family, and they should, if you can, they should be people that you have worked with. It could be supervisors, it could be bosses, it could be coworkers, it could even be your teacher. So, go ahead and ask if you can list them as a reference. You should always ask, because you would hate for a boss to call you and then that person not give you a good reference. Your references. The first thing that you can see is I've got 3 references. That is a good general rule of thumb. more than likely you're never going to contact a job that wants more than 3 references. I guess be prepared in case, but in general, no. Now, something that you need to remember, don't list your mom as a reference. As much as we love our moms and our grandmas, no one is going to take you seriously if you list them as a reference. We want someone who's non-family, because of course your family is always going to stick up for you. So, bosses, teachers, co-workers, things like that. Now, if it is distant family, that could probably be okay, because not everybody lives 2 houses down from their 5th cousin like we do here in Adams County. All right, so looking at this resume reference example here, you can probably see that at the very top there is an exact copy of the contact information, just like it is on the resume. The reason why is because your references should always be listed on a separate page, and you don't want your references being lost from your resume. So you have to put your name on both, and you want the full contact information on both. And then we've got 3 references here. We've got John Proctor, Fetty Wap, and Susan Penelope Frankfurt. Okay, and for your references, you can see here we've got their name, we've got their title. Their title might be teacher, their title might be general manager, supervisor, whatever. And then we've got an address. Now, this address is not their home address. This is the address of the workplace. So if you're listing your boss from McDonald's, this should be the McDonald's address. Okay, if you're listing a teacher from West Union High School, this should be the West Union High School address. Now, the phone number and the email, that's a little bit different. It depends on what your reference wants. Sometimes your reference wants to list their work phone, but sometimes they want to list their personal phone. That's up to the reference. As for the email, you should always list the personal reference email. So if you were listing me, for example, you would list my school email because that's what you have access to.